Hello and welcome another edition of the Corvive College Coaches Corner, where each and every Thursday take a few minutes, talk to college coaches, all levels, all divisions. And today we're going to talk NCAA Division III athletics, the NEWMAC conference, one of the most competitive athletic conferences throughout the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic. We're going to talk MIT baseball with the head coach, new head coach, Chris Morris. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
No, thank you for having me on, and appreciate everything you do for the game of baseball. You do a lot to support it, so
Well,
really
I
appreciate
appreciate.
it
I know it's really, really busy, and I know things are getting hectic as we get started with the
for sure.
season. But let's talk a little bit about. You've been Hudson, brief time at Brandeis, but so you're very familiar with the landscape with regard to NCAA Division III. Let's start there. Let's just talk about the Division III world now. It used to be when I was coaching, there was a dramatic difference in talent, Division I, Division III. Now it's kind of all evened out with schools like Babson and Salve and Endicott. How do you feel, the Division III baseball landscape is changing with all of the changes above at the Division I level?
I think Division III baseball is the best it's been in a long, long time. I encourage a lot of people to just go watch a game. I think a lot of people are like, oh, can I play at that level? Go watch, right? Attend a game and watch how high of a level it really is. Just look at the arms that are going from Division III to Division I and having the success, and positional players going Division III to Division I and having the success. I really do. I think the game of baseball is the best it's been in a long time. I think there's a lot of stuff that has happened that's been really good for it, but I think that the mix between the high level Division threes and then Division ones is getting closer and closer. And there's a lot of great coaches in Division three baseball as well. Great coaching staffs I think come into play in this as well. But just for example, we were at Hudson last year. We beat Maine. So there's a lot of those pieces of the puzzle that come into play. It just shows you can go anywhere and have success, right? You can go anywhere and have a great career and play high level baseball.
One of the things I always try to encourage parents to consider when they're thinking about college and recruiting is the balance of the collective college experience. And now MIT being in the Cambridge, Massachusetts area with Harvard, and then right up the street you got BU, Northeastern, et cetera. Talk a little bit about the community as a college area for prospective college student athletes. MIT being almost right on top of the Charles River. It's a really beautiful campus.
It's beautiful. In my opinion, it's one of the best college towns in the country. You just look at the buzz around the city and how many schools are in a 10-mile radius, right? You have so much to do just in the city of Boston alone. But I think it's really fun to be a part of that. It creates a really cool atmosphere for your students and your student athletes to be able to do stuff not just on your campus, but throughout the city. And it's just a really special place to be.
I also want to remind parents and student athletes MIT is probably a stone's throw from Fenway Park. You can throw a rock across the
Hear the
Charles.
roar of the crowd in the fall.
Exactly. Now, I would love for you to share a little bit about, the rigors academically and the challenges that are presented really at any university, but particularly MIT. When you become a student athlete there, it's really important for you to be able to balance academics and athletics. Talk a little bit about that when you're talking with potential recruits and getting them to understand what awaits them as a potential MIT student athlete.
Yeah, I think an easy way to say is it could be challenges. We think it's a privilege to be here. What an unbelievable opportunity. In my opinion, to get one of the best degrees in the world. And be able to align yourself, for the next 40 years of your life, right? So a lot of those tough days and the challenges that you face here, we really think you see that benefit, after 4 years when you go either into a graduate degree or into your work field, whatever you're going to be doing. But it's going to be challenging, but it's worth it. We feel like we have a really good baseball program here. We've had a lot of success. We play in a great conference with great competition every single day. So you're going to get challenged everywhere you go. And we really believe that the student athletes that embrace that, they want that. They want to be challenged across the street academically to prepare themselves for those next steps in life. But at the same time, we want kids who are passionate about baseball. And I really sell that with our recruits. I think passion is one of the best things in life, and I think you can be passionate about a ton of things. I'm now recently coaching both my sons are playing, so between flag football and youth hockey, I'm right into it. But they have passion for it, and I love that. I take that into our own team. I want them to be passionate about their academic stuff, clubs that they're involved. But I expect them to be passionate about baseball because I am. Our coaching staff is. So when you have that passion and you love it like we do, it's certainly my job to juggle it and make sure that we're not overwhelming them in a lot of ways. But that passion, I think, excels you and makes those hard days easy. And you love doing it with some great people. Good things are going to happen.
So I would love for you to kind of, if you could, just talk a little bit about from a recruiting perspective, albeit this is your first season, but, Andy, your previous coach, Andy Barlow, left a real 23-year legacy, and MIT, for those that maybe not be familiar, really a high-end program. I believe you had a pitcher from last year's program, last year's team going to Tennessee. A lot of scouts at all of the games, so it's a high-level academic, but also athletic program. Talk a little bit about when you begin recruiting. Is it after the junior year is completed? Are you identifying during that rising junior summer? When do you kind of begin your recruiting process for a potential MIT recruit?
Yeah, actually, Mason went in the 7th round. He's with the Dodgers, so
Okay.
he's gone. He signed, which was great for him, and it shows the caliber athlete that you can have here. I think that's 3 draft picks in the last 6 or so years. I think maybe a little bit longer than that, but it's that caliber that are here, and he was doing amazing things off the field as well, right, from an academic side of things. But I think the recruiting timeline, you're always evaluating. Right. I think that's our job. If you're saying, "Oh, I'm only doing it during this time frame," like, maybe that's, some programs do that and they're very successful, and that's how their coaching staffs do things, and that's great. Works for them. For us, I think we're always evaluating. Certainly, the academic piece is huge for us. And what you're taking, when you're taking it, and those types of things. But I think you constantly have to be evaluating during this time frame. And for us, more kids are getting into the multi-sport stuff. I was a multi-sport kid myself. So it's for me, I think that constant evaluation is what we try to do, because you could be in football or soccer or wrestling or hockey, whatever you got going on. You might not be exactly in baseball season during that time frame, which we personally love. It shows that you're well-rounded. You can juggle multiple things. You're not going to be overwhelmed, when it comes to doing so many things on a short period of time. So our evaluation period is just constant. We always look for good players and then kind of put into that piece of the academic side of things.
Do you offer camps? Does MIT have camps during either the summer or the fall, or even this time of year during the early?
Yeah, we do. So we're going to have 3 camps throughout the summer. We just announced we're building a brand new turf field, which was a blessing for us. We have some really special alumni within our program that made a big impact on us. So we're actually breaking ground on a brand new turf stadium, which is going to be unbelievable for the program, and moving forward within those. So nothing this winter, just from the standpoint of that kind of stuff. But we will have stuff throughout the summer, and it is, in my opinion, the best way to be seen. Right? If you want to get to somewhere and you want to go directly to them, if you want to learn more about the program, and to me, a camp isn't just baseball, right? Like, I think you as a recruit, there should be a lot of questions that you have. Do I want to go here? Do I like the city? What's the coaching staff like? Academic piece. You get to learn a lot from going to a camp, and we evaluate everywhere. But if you really want to dive into that specific school and see what it's like, get to their camp, whatever it is, wherever you're interested in, find that out, and that gives you a good chance to get a lot of your questions answered in the recruiting process prior to hopefully them recruiting you.
There's a hot topic going around in social media right now with regard to most coaches never attend a high school game, they don't bother going to high school games. Where do you kind of, with regard to you or your staff, when possible, do you try to get out and see athletes, at least within a certain geographical area, and see them competing as high school athletes during your recruiting process?
Yeah, for us, it's a little bit when we recruit nationwide, so sometimes it's a little tricky for us to get to some of those. But for example, what's today? Thursday. 2, 3 or last week, I was at a high school hockey game. We got a local kid who we're really interested in, and I wanted to go see him compete a little bit, right? And you learn a lot by seeing him on the ice, and kind of how they interact with their teammates and their coaches, right? You can learn a lot as a coach. That was really big for me in my previous spot. at Husson, I would very local from a standpoint there. So I was at everything. I wanted to see him compete, not just in a high school game, but basketball, hockey, wrestling, whatever it might be. I think we want competitors at the highest level here. So I think we're going to continue those as much as we can. But I think talking to the high school coach too has always been a big part of it for us. It's usually one of the first phone calls I make. I love hearing from their high school coach. I really do. It's in my family. My uncles all coach high school, so it's been a pipeline for me, and it's just kind of a checkbox for us. But that's usually one of the first phone calls that we make is to your high school coach.
There's a lot of information back and forth, and I just want to go back to it. I want to let parents know that, Coach Morris was a football player and a baseball player in college, so, and in high school. So my point is there's a lot of banter back and forth. It's not worth the time being a multi-sport athlete. You have to go and you have to really become the best version of yourself as a baseball player, when you enter high school. Talk about, especially in New England, we kind of grow up, that's instilled in us: football season, hockey, basketball, and then baseball season. Talk about the grit component to the multi-sport athlete with regard to not only from a physical perspective, but also a mental mindset with regard to temperatures and, and playing during the different times of year. Talk about that value as a head baseball coach at the college level, why multi-sport athletes can be a valuable asset to a college baseball program.
Yeah, I think for me, it's even just not multi-sport. It's just be involved in something.
Correct.
Right? Be engaged, right? Be in your community, in your school, whatever it might be. Whether it's a club or you work. I mean, there's 1,000 things going on. I think with youth right now, and specifically high school. I mean, they're getting dragged in every direction too, right? And that's the other piece of this, right? You got kids. Summer it's like, I got football at 8, and then I'm trying to go to basketball midday, and I'm flipping into baseball pants later in the day, right? And that's where a lot of them, I think, get lost in that shuffle. But I think it's important for them to embrace that. Some of my best friends were kids I played football with, right? And I wanted to be a part of that with them. And I think those relationships are what drive you at the end of the day. And hopefully you kind of learn that, I think, later in life, me specifically. But enjoy that, right? Enjoy that part of it and the love of that sport. And at some point you are going to have to specialize if you want to really take it to the next level. And, re-believe, and me personally, that once you get older, it's a great time to do it. You get into college, now you have a background on different sports, how to compete, different movements. I know, specifically in the fall, we had a kid who played hockey here at MIT, and, I'm talking swings and I'm talking some movements in hockey, right? And it was an easy way for me to relate to him, and I could communicate to him, and he learned really fast because I'm like, hey, when you take a slap shot, what's it look like? And he's looking at me like I got 10 eyes. He's like, we're hitting a baseball, coach. Why are you talking to me about a slap shot? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to talk about your lower half. Like, what are we going to do? And I think that helps us teach kids how to learn. I know with my own kids, I've got 3 that learn differently. Both my boys are different. My oldest son needs 1,000 reps, and Max is that's how he is. He needs to rep. My middle son, Benny, I can show him a video, and 10 minutes later he's doing it, and that's the piece of it. I think how you learn it and being able to relate to multiple sports. And I think, just taking a break mentally as well. You can't do something, and squeeze the passion out of it because it puts pressure on you. Right. And you can always play baseball and hit in the cage. And I think year-round stuff is always going to be involved in the game. It has to be. But go play. Go do what you're passionate about. Go do what you love, and be involved in things that are, bigger than you, and good things happen.
One of the things I would love to talk about, particularly with, the college athlete now, more and more, it is becoming clear that time management skills or workload management skills are really imperative and an integral part of becoming a successful college student athlete. Can you talk a little bit about that, both at Husson and now obviously at MIT, why that's important for high school athletes to kind of get that routine and get that something that's transferable when they go on to college, because you are going to have to be able to manage time almost to the minute once you get to a school like MIT.
Yeah, I actually gave a talk last week at one of the conventions, and I kind of used routines. I think routines create confidence, right? And I think that's what we're all in search of, right? Is confidence, right? We want to be confident in what we're doing, how we're doing it. So for a lot of our guys, and I started this a while back, we kind of log their days. It's kind of easy when you sit there and you kind of make a checklist of what you're doing the next day and the time frames that you're going to be doing it. High school is a little bit easier. You got the block of where you're going to be in school, right? And then it's, what do I have after it? And you start to see what time frames you have, when you're going to be doing things. I really think that helps you juggle all the things in life. And I think also a side of it that you can't forget is have fun, enjoy life sometimes. I talk to some recruits and it's, oh, I'm this, and this. And I have to, what do you do for fun? What do you do for fun? What do you like to do? And it's, sometimes it's, they get caught off guard, a college coach asking them what they like to do for fun. But I think that's important too. You got to enjoy life, right? It's a short time frame, and you got to enjoy the people that you're around. I absolutely love our team. I love our coaching staff here at MIT. They've just been so fun to me and my family in my short time here. My boys come to the field and, they're running around in the outfield with our guys already. And, they've embraced them, which is great from my side. And I think that piece of it is like, if you don't love what you're doing and you're not having fun and you're not enjoying it, what are you doing it for? And I think sometimes you can make it so structured and so focused on, I got to do this, I have to do this, that you forget that. And I think it's a really important part.
I miss those days when both my boys would be making the bus trips up to, whether it was UMaine or Thomas or Farmington or anything like that. It was an integral part of their development, as student athletes. I can promise you that. Next, and probably a big question in today's world, is how do athletes communicate with you or your staff? Are you engaged and involved with regard to social media? Is it more an email that you'd like to get with the video? How does someone get on the radar for an MIT as a recruit?
Yeah, I think every piece we're involved in. I mean, social media, I think you have to be, right? It's a part of the game now, and it's a part of what you're going to be doing. Emails are great. I will say, sometimes the emails they're very well thought out, but they are really long. Keep it short and sweet, right? I mean, I know I'm talking to you right now, and it's blowing up on my bottom right of the screen, right? And its emails are coming in. I mean, every coach is getting fluttered by it, and I try to do a great job of. I might not get to your rate that day, but we try to get back to everybody who emails us. If you're going to take the time to send that email to me, then I'm going to try and take the time to get back to you. And it varies within spots, right? We may be having conversations with you, we may not be. But I know specifically to my school, it's very helpful to have your documents ready. Telling me you've got a 4 or 5 with these APs are all great, but I'd like to see the transcript, right? And it's a good time frame to be able to have those copies and have those things around. But an email is always great. Social media is always great to reach out. But then I think also getting to schools and making sure that you're filling out their questionnaires, right? If you want to learn about camps and you want to learn about what's going on with their programs, people always send stuff out through those. So it's a great way to get all your information in one spot and be able to get, updates on the program or the coaches, whatever it might be. But those are kind of the avenues that we take, to be able to get on our radar.
So last question, if you could, you have a freshman or a sophomore in high school and their goal, their life dream is to attend a school such as MIT. What advice would you give those athletes that have that kind of that academic athletic goal to be able to make sure, they are going to be ready for when their, junior or senior year come and they say, okay, I really want to take a deep look into MIT. What are some of the kind of the lessons or topics that you would tell them to make sure they focus and are really good at?
I really do. I think one of the steps I would take is making sure I'm sitting down with my guidance counselor at my son's school and making sure that we have an academic plan. Right. A lot of times I'll reach out to prospective student athletes and it's like, hey, what are you taking next? And it's, my next math, right? What it might be. And I think making sure you sit down and if you want to be that high of an academic student and you want to get to one of the highest academic institutions, whether it's MIT, I mean, there's a lot of tremendous schools, that do a lot of great things. Having an academic plan is really, really important to know what you're taking and trying to maximize your course load and making sure you know what you're doing. So I think that would be kind of that first step is making sure you're doing those and don't put pressure on yourself. Right. I think that's the other piece is I talk to a lot of kids and it's like, oh, I've got to go get this. And that's unwanted pressure. It's unneeded pressure, right? Just go be you, be a great student athlete, work hard, challenge yourself, learn who you are as a student. How do you study? What are the things that you need to do to prepare yourself for those tests? You're certainly going to have to work really hard to get to a school like MIT. But pressure only comes when you don't feel like you're prepared, right? So if you work hard enough and you prepare the right way, let that stuff happens. And, certainly on my end, I kind of will let you know if we think it's a fit academically or not on that side. But you can't control that either, and it's obviously for us from a baseball side, it's got to be a fit on both ends. But certainly I think do those two things and you can kind of line yourself up to have an opportunity to be at a really high academic school.
The last question I want to slip in, talk about from a physicality perspective. In today's world of Division III athletics, it's really a big man's game, meaning not necessarily stature, but with regard to toughness, physical toughness, physical. Can you talk a little bit about the Division III game now is really elite with regard to skill set. So what are some of the separators when you're looking at from a physicality perspective, as far as an incoming high school student, where do they need to be and able to really make an impact at MIT?
I think for me, I don't know if I have a great answer for that because everybody's going to be different, in my opinion. I think it's what are you doing outside of it? Do I think the weight room has certainly become more and more popular and I think more important at the high school level? Absolutely. But then again, you might have a 3-sport guy, right? Who's, going after it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. Right. I think a big piece is having a background when you go into college. Right. And I think that's what I kind of say to everybody is you might not be somebody who's been in there, or you might not have the resources to get in there all the time. Your school may not have a strength coach. You might not have the ability to get to somebody to train you. Going into college, having an idea of what the weight room is like, how to lift, technique, I think is the most important part outside of if you've been there, just because that's how your progression is going to speed up a little bit in the weight room. Like knowing what you're doing, how to do it, what a weight room looks like, those are all pieces of the puzzle. But I think the game is just growing and it's all the way down. I mean, you look at, middle school now, right? I mean, they're talking about body weight movements, right, which I think is great. Like they're kind of teaching them movements and movement patterns and training and dry land training and all these things that you can have the ability to do and how to work your body in different ways. And I think all that stuff is great. So I think it's just going to progress over this next 10 or so years. And, it's going to evolve every single year into something different as technology gets better and how to lift and those types of things. But the physicality is definitely upped at our level. I mean, you can just show up at the field and look at the field and you're like, wow, those are some big, and from when I played, you're like, whoa, right. Here we are. Me recruiting. I mean, I'm in the huddle and I'm looking up at everybody now. Right. And it's fun for me, because that's a good part of the game. If you want to be physical and leave the yard and do those types of things, but it wouldn't be something I'm like, hey, this is what you have to look like. I think every single student athlete is going to be different, and I kind of treat every student athlete different in that realm.
Well, I want to say thank you to Chris. I'm really looking forward to, I believe you'll have a long tenure at MIT and all your children will be able to grow up with the MIT campus and family. I think that's a huge part of a childhood. I know my boys look back on it very fondly. And Chris, best of luck this year, not only in the NEWMAC, but all of the NCAA. I hope you have a successful first year and beyond. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you for everything you do. It's really exciting to have somebody who's so much passion about the game of baseball involved in it. So I appreciate all that you do.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and I will be in Cambridge watching a game or two this year in the NEWMAC.
Come on down.
I'll definitely be there with the camera crew.
Perfect. Love it.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Athletes, electrolytes matter, but you got to choose the right electrolytes. If you look at the sugars, 34 grams, the dyes, all the things that's not good for you in this product. This is a hype product. If you look here at the electrolytes made by Corvive, it's got the right amount of magnesium, sodium, potassium, zinc, kosher salt. It's got vitamin C to help with the immune system. I'm telling you, if you want to stay on the field, you want to perform at your best, you want to recover well, this is the product that you need to choose to fuel your body as an athlete.